Stranger in Our House, also known as Summer of Fear, is a 1978 made-for-TV movie directed by Wes Craven and stars Linda Blair and Lee Purcell. This movie came right after Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. It's Wes Craven's third directorial feature, and it's an interesting piece of history from a time when made-for-TV movies were starting to really take off, and it's definitely noteworthy for the cast and the story. The story revolves around a long-lost cousin coming to spend time with Linda Blair's family after the cousin's parents were killed in a car crash. But as you can guess, things are not all what they seem with this quote-unquote cousin, as her true intentions slowly unfold throughout the movie, and Linda Blair's suspicions are proven to not just be paranoia. I really like this movie. You may think that it would feel quaint for being a made-for-TV movie from the 70s, but it is very dark. And I should note there are a lot of animals in peril situations and stunts with horses. So if that kind of stuff makes you uncomfortable, just be prepared for that. I thought Lee Purcell was great in this. She's not a particularly well-known actor, but she did a great job seducing the family and making herself at home, let's say. This movie also has a small part played by a young Fran Drescher, so it's another just interesting tidbit about this movie. The Collector from 1965 stars Terence Stamp and Samantha Eggar. It's essentially about a man who kidnaps a woman and traps her in a basement and the psychological games that they play with each other throughout the movie. William Wyler's filmography is known to be very diverse, but it was still strange to see a movie so bleak and dark directed by the same person who directed The Best Years of Our Lives. I thought Terence Stamp was properly creepy and threatening, and Samantha Eggar, although she was known at the time apparently for not being the greatest actress, did quite a good job at the victim trying to outsmart her captor. For a movie from this era, I found it very bleak and scary. One thing I would knock about the movie is that the soundtrack, the score of the movie was a little bit too whimsical, and I thought it could have been darker to match the tone of the movie. I was very surprised by this one, and I would recommend it to people who like serial killer stuff. If you like Silence of the Lambs or Psycho or anything in between, you really need to check out The Collector. Significant Other is a movie that I just picked out randomly. I thought it was something else actually, but I started watching and I said, oh, this is a Micah Monroe movie. And it turns out that this is another movie that Micah Monroe basically carries on her back. In this movie, she plays against Jake Lacy, who is a very handsome glass of water, going on a hiking trip in the Pacific Northwest where he ends up proposing marriage to her. She declines his marriage proposal, making the trip quite awkward. But that's nothing compared to what comes next, which is a body snatchers type alien situation. Going into this blind, I had no expectations. I didn't even know what it was, but I ended up liking this one quite a bit despite some major flaws. I'm convinced that Micah Monroe's dry, deer in headlights, aloof style can work in any horror movie, but Jake Lacy's performance was a little too soft in the beginning and didn't contrast enough with the threat that he becomes later. Also, some of the CGI just didn't look good. This was a direct-to-streaming movie, so that might have something to do with it. But I would say if you're looking for a little bit of a twist on the body snatcher genre, you should check out Significant Other. Kicking Blood from 2021 is very similar to a movie that I reviewed a few episodes ago called Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person, in that it is a Canadian vampire movie that has a little bit of a romance where the vampire wants to go straight and not be a vampire anymore. Where Humanist Vampire was more of a comedy, this movie is more straight. And I will say that I rated this a lot higher than most people, but for some reason this is a genre that really speaks to me. It helps that our vampire is played by the lovely Alana Bale, who resembles a young Fiona Apple to me. And the plot involves her coming across a young man named Robbie who has hit rock bottom with alcoholism and depression, and when he realizes that he's going to be her next victim, he just submits, which she finds off-putting. She lets him crash in her place instead of feeding off him, and he decides to turn his life around. A bond starts to develop between the two, and she also chooses to turn her quote-unquote life around by kicking blood. Again, I'll warn that I like this movie more than most people. Some criticisms against the movie is that the two main characters don't have a lot of chemistry together, and I think that's a fair criticism. But I like that the movie was very cold. It was filmed in Canada. There's snow everywhere. It really takes you to that place. And I also tend to enjoy stories about addiction and overcoming addiction because it's something that I've dealt with personally. Also, there's some really good music, and it's a lot of stuff that I haven't heard. I do love hearing familiar things in movies, but I also think it's really cool when the soundtrack to a movie is really good and also it's stuff that you haven't heard before. So yeah, I really like this one. I like the twist on the vampire lore. I like the chill, cool factor of it. Just know that I rated it higher than pretty much everybody else who watched it. Weapons is a 2025 horror mystery written and directed by noted PCP enthusiast Zach Cregger.
What do you got there?
This is a gallon of PCP.
Now this movie is very new, so I'm going to be as spoiler free as possible. So I'll say off the bat, I highly recommend this movie and go in as blind as you can, which as time goes on, that gets harder and harder. I've seen YouTube thumbnails already that have the main antagonist on them, which is better if you experience that through the movie. The story setup, which is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer, is that there's a group of children who are all from the same class at school that one night decide to Naruto run out of their houses in the middle of the night, and nobody knows where they went and they are missing. From that setup, we jump forward 1 month in time and look at the lives of the people of the community as they deal with this mystery and tragedy. I was a fan of Cregger's first movie, Barbarian, and this movie had a lot of hype behind it, so I was very excited to see it. My expectations were sky high. The pacing in this one is very deliberate. It's a slow burn, but it has a great payoff. It has one of the best endings I've seen in a while. The ending just completely kicks ass. It's bombastic and funny, and it got me actually a little bit emotional because it followed a very heavy section of the movie that had some familiarity to me. And I won't get into the metaphors, the symbolism of this movie. There's plenty of other YouTube videos you can watch about that, but I will say that the last section of this movie really hit me in the feels, so to speak. Now, I've seen it criticized that what the answer to the mystery turns out to be is not as wild and out of left field as Barbarian, but I actually think that's a good thing because I wouldn't want to see Zach Cregger get pigeonholed in an M. Night Shyamalan kind of way, as his movies have to have this out of left field kind of thing that just turns the whole situation on its head. I like that it was a little bit more conventional. Also, as I said, the ending was way better than Barbarian. I think he learned some lessons where there was a lot of criticism there. I originally just gave this 4 stars, but after sleeping on it, I realized it was still under my skin. I was still thinking about it, so I bumped it up to a rare 4.5, which is a rating I almost never give. So I recommend you go see it before you get it spoiled, and I can't wait to see what Zach Cregger does next because he's definitely 2 for 2 in the horror genre. And that'll do it for another video. I really appreciate you making it to the end. If you want to see more of these short reviews, there's a whole playlist on my channel. And if you want to subscribe, it'll probably be a long time before I can monetize this channel, so you won't see any ads. It's just something to think about. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.